Right now, as you watch this video, Europe is entering a severe crisis. An unprecedented energy disaster is unfolding right in front of our eyes, and the news outlets have been largely silent about it. As tensions between the East and the West continue to grow, the weaponization of energy becomes more and more obvious. In today's video, we explore the incredible importance of fuel and showcase how war is pushing one side to the brink, using oil and gas to spark an economic implosion. One that could make the European economy completely collapse by the end of winter. Today, the unthinkable has happened. The futures market in France went off the chart. The one-year forward baseload electricity future reached 800 euros. This may not mean anything to you, but as I will explain, this is a remarkable development that will have severe economic ramifications, endangering the European economy as well as the world economy. You see, when Russia decided to cross the border into Ukraine, it sparked a long series of events that ultimately caused a severe disruption to the energy markets in Europe. Before February of 2022, Russia accounted for about 45% of the EU's gas imports and 40% of its entire gas consumption. A lot of that gas comes through a pipe network, and in recent times, the Russians have been suspiciously turning the pipes off for maintenance periods with flows that pale in comparison to historical norms. This has caused uncertainty in the futures market for these commodities, especially as Europe enters winter. You can clearly visualize this by looking at this chart, which shows what is essentially a reflection of the price of electricity in France. Today, it reached 840 euros, which is about 15 times more expensive than what was considered normal for decades. Think about this for a second. The average American has an electricity bill that is $122 per month. Now imagine you suddenly have to pay $1,800 a month to keep the lights on. This is an absolutely absurd rise, and besides the residential aspect, the effect on the economy is devastating. A recent viral tweet by a small Italian foundry showcased the effect of this rapid change, and this was before today's insane price surge. Apparently, the foundry last year had an average summer energy bill amounting to around $17,000. This year, in July, that same bill rose to over $108,000, a near 700% increase, devastating the business and their bottom line. In fact, the CEO even said that shutting down while energy prices are this high would make more economic sense than continuing operations. Now take that scenario and extrapolate it over an entire continent full of industry and factories that rely on energy to produce goods with mostly tight margins. Without changes to energy prices, European manufacturers will simply be outpriced on the worldwide market, leading to devastating losses. Take a listen to this clip, which went live yesterday, but before I show you, please take a second to hit that like and subscribe button if you're enjoying the content thus far. Now back to the clip.
Lima, I'm going to start with you. What do you think? Is this coming to America, as they say?
Well, I mean, Europe is going to be ground zero for this energy crisis. I mean, obviously, they are the main importers of Russian gas. The Russians have made it very, very clear they're going to continue to cut off gas supplies into Europe. We're going to have a 3-day outage on Nord Stream 1 starting on August 29th. But we can expect the Russians just to keep the pain up in order to try to force the Europeans to change their calculations about sanctions, about supporting Ukraine. So, yes, gas prices in the United States will also rise, but Europe is going to be really where the pain is going to exist with this war.
So there you have it. Even big name firms are picking up on this looming crisis, and nowhere is this more apparent than the natural gas market. This morning, the TTF, or the Dutch natural gas benchmark, closed at 265 euros per megawatt hour, a record high settlement price. Now, just like that previous chart I showed, this doesn't mean anything to you without some context. So here's an example to showcase the problem. You see, while you may never really think about natural gas in your day-to-day life, it's one of the most important commodities we have on planet Earth. So much of what we manufacture on a mass scale requires this precious gas as an input, but nothing is more important than food, and to get food on a scale large enough to feed billions of people, you need fertilizer. Long story short, natural gas is the single most important fuel in the creation of fertilizer, and without it, the entire food system collapses. Now in Europe, because the price of nat gas has risen over 700% in recent months, the expenses in creating fertilizer have gotten completely out of hand. It got so bad that the most important German fertilizer producer, SKW, halted production until October, possibly extending into next year because of high gas prices. The company claims that at current prices, they are incurring a $70 million monthly loss, and without change, Germany will be forced to import fertilizer from Russia, which happens to be exempt from sanctions. And we can actually visualize this dilemma by looking at a particular stock here in the United States. You see, while nat gas prices in Europe have soared, here in the US they are only slightly elevated. The difference in the markets can be attributed to the fact that nat gas is hard to transport, so each market is very isolated in its pricing. But what this means is that fertilizer companies based in the US like CF Industries are thriving because they get to produce fertilizer using cheap gas, and they can sell that overseas in the overpriced euro markets, making hand over fist as they print profits. Investors have quickly caught on to this trade, and CF stock has exploded by 138% in just 1 year. By looking at this one ticker alone, you can get a good idea of just how bad things in Europe are getting, because it's an indicator of market discrepancy. As long as Europe has sky-high energy prices, a company like CF will print money. The bigger the crisis, the larger the margin, and the higher the stock price. It's a simple reality, a tough one to accept. Without an alternative import strategy, their reliance on Russian energy is essentially a lifeline. Without the pipes pumping gas from the east, European industry will simply collapse. This is not the opinion of a random YouTuber. PhD economists say the same exact thing in a nicer way. For example, Thomas Malinin said today that Europe is heading straight into a depression, tweeting, "I would dearly hope that people all over the world would understand the fast approaching European depression will become a major global issue. You should not watch Jackson Hole, but European energy markets." And to make things worse, it doesn't seem like the conflict affecting the one man who controls the flows to Europe is getting any better. Over the weekend, it was reported that the daughter of a prominent Putin supporter named Alexander Dugin was allegedly murdered in what seemed to be a case of collateral damage. As the war in Ukraine heats up and winter approaches, Putin will surely use his energy position to engage in economic warfare. It's no coincidence that the Nord Stream pipeline will once again be down for maintenance from August 31st to September 2nd. Many are now wondering, will it be turned back on for the winter? If Russians completely cut Europe off, the consequences could be severe, and the resulting fallout would endanger every economy on Earth. How it plays out, nobody knows, and the heightened uncertainty is killing the markets. It will undoubtedly be an interesting winter, and watching the energy markets in Europe will be the key in understanding where things go from here. Thank you guys for watching. As always, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed it.